Today on the Pipeline Vlog, what I'm reading this weekend. It is Friday, July 7th as I record this, and just going to go through a couple of comic books that I'm reading right now and why, part of the process of creating PipelineComics.com and all the various social media that it goes through. We'll start with this one, Valerian Volume 14, The Living Weapons. This is the next one to be reviewed. I actually have a first draft of it written, and I realized I had a couple of negative comments about it that I wanted to just double check to make sure I wasn't too far off the mark, to make sure it wasn't me who was reading the book wrong. So I'm going to reread that thing again for probably the third time now, because it can't possibly be true that the character is acting as dumb as I think that character is acting. I think maybe I was reading it too fast and missed a couple of the cues and a couple of the sort of the more subtle parts of the storytelling. So I'm going to reread that one, and hopefully it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It's a good book. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but there's part of the plot to me that just felt like people were acting dumb when they obviously should have known certain things. And I'm trying to figure out if that's the way the story was told, the way I read it, or if I'm just reading too much into the plot. But we'll take a look at that. We'll reread it and find out. The box of Image comics for what's coming out next week showed up at my door, so most excitingly, Kill or Be Killed number 10 is coming out next week. I mean, yeah, the demon is there, but we'll see what impact he has. Also out next week, Youngblood number 3, Rob Liefeld fans. It's back, the third issue. This is one of those rarer Image Comics series that I keep up with. I've noticed the past couple of weeks, the Image releases are filled with books that I like, but ones that I've fallen a couple of issues behind on, which gets a little bit frustrating. Over the course of time, that tends to work itself out. I'll sit down with a stack, I'll sort through them all, I'll make sure I get all the story arcs in line, and I will sit through and read and catch up on things. But it looks like that time is coming again. Hello, summer. So I'm going to be catching up on a lot of things, but Youngblood, at least Youngblood-wise, I'm up to date on. And finally, a book that was just on sale at ComiXology this week. This is, holding up an iPad to an iPhone to make a video is kind of a weird thing, but this is Harmony. The first 2 volumes of it were on sale at ComiXology this week. I'm about halfway through, actually, that first volume, and so far the art is really nice. And we have the story of a young amnesiac girl who has the powers of apparently telekinetics, but she doesn't know what's going on, and she's being held captive, and she's trying to figure it all out. And I think I'm about up to the point where she's going to find out, so we'll see what happens there. The story starts with a flashback to, let me see if I can get to the right page here and give you the exact date, like 4,000 years earlier. This is the difference between European comics and American comics, because our history only goes back, well, as the United States goes back a couple hundred years, you go back to whenever the land was colonized, a little further back than that, but suffice it to say, our history is much shorter than European history. We're happy to see a building that's 100 years old, whereas, a French building that could be 500 years old is commonplace. And part of my numbers on that, I might be wrong. I'm sorry. I haven't visited your fine country yet. I hope to someday. This story starts, reading now, 4,000 years in the past. That's how far back they go. We tend to have stories which go back to what our parents were doing 30 or 40 years ago, and that's the end of it. But that's Harmony. I've got the first 2 volumes here. I hope to read those, and definitely will review at least the first one, probably in the next week between Valerian reviews, if all goes according to plan. So what are you reading this weekend? It's not a holiday weekend in America anymore. It's just a regular 2-day weekend. There's lots of new stuff that's come out, lots of stuff that's still coming out. Maybe you're catching up on things. Let me know. Catch me on Twitter, Pipeline Comics, or leave a comment below here on YouTube, and let's see what everyone's reading and what you're looking forward to. Thanks for watching. I'm Augie the Bleak, and I'll see you again real soon.